No one's as tough as I am. No one's as committed as I am. No one's willing to work harder than I am.
Kyle McIlharney is pursuing a dream that many of the white kids he grew up with on Staten Island have long abandoned. The dream of playing in the NBA.
Play hard on both ends of the court, tough as nails, and knock down any open shot.
Look at the length of this one, Sean. Oh!
McIlharney was first-team All-Big East as a junior at Notre Dame. As a senior, he led the Big East in three-pointers. A 5'11" point guard with a quick release and uncanny touch from beyond the arc. Last November, McIlharney torched top-ranked North Carolina for 39 points, draining 10 threes, a Notre Dame record.
I think if you call somebody up who had never seen me play and you gave him my stat sheet and said I was a point guard and everything, I think he would sign me right away if he didn't know my color.
On draft day, all 30 NBA teams passed on McIlharney. Still, he strives to join a group that's never been smaller, white American NBA players. According to data compiled by Outside the Lines, almost 72% of NBA players are African American. More than 18% are international players, and just under 10% are white Americans, an historic low. And white American players are less visible and arguably less prominent than at any time in the league's 63-year history. Consider that there has not been a white American NBA All-Star since Brad Miller in 2004. No white American has been selected to start an All-Star game since John Stockton in 1997. In 1986, both Larry Bird and Kiki Vandeweghe were among the league's top 5 scorers. Last season, only 2 white Americans, the Knicks' David Lee and the Pacers' Troy Murphy, finished among the top 100.
Who is the best U.S.-born white player in the NBA right now?
Gosh, I didn't know we even had any. You'd have to help me with that one. I'm serious. You'd have to help me.
Hall of Famer Jerry West averaged 27 points per game over a 14-year career in the 60s and early 70s. He was an all-star in every one of those seasons. Now, West can't name a single white American player he'd pay to see, and can't recall many he drafted during his time running the Lakers and later the Memphis Grizzlies.
When I worked for the Lakers, I've got a number of letters saying that I was racist because we had majority of our players were black. And I'm saying to myself, isn't this about winning and what matters most?
In the last 5 NBA drafts, teams selected 195 African Americans and 80 international players, but only 25 white Americans.
Why aren't more white American players drafted?
I guess they're not good enough to get drafted. I don't know.
Mark Price was a 2-time All-American at Georgia Tech, who slipped to the second round of the 1986 draft. Barely 6 feet, many thought Price was too small and too slow. He became a 4-time NBA All-Star. Price says white American college stars have not been able to adjust to the pro game, in which speed, quickness, and hops is the holy trinity.
I just think athleticism as a whole is important at the NBA level, probably more so than any other level that the game is played. And I think it's simply because the shot clock is only 24 seconds, and the game is moving faster.
Which means Kyle McIlharney has work to do.
Having that extra gear that's just faster than everyone else on the court, I don't have that yet. I don't necessarily agree that I'm too slow. I'm not slow at all. I just think that's the perception, that's the label I've been given.
It is an obstacle that you have to understand when you're a white American player, that you're going to have to overcome that stereotype because it's there.
Scouts and coaches, they aren't willing to take a chance on a white player who they feel has reached their potential athletically. Because he's white, who can he guard? He's too slow, can't jump, can he keep up with the pace of the game?
I'm not sure that they're wrong. Show me that type of player that has proved them wrong.
You mean a small white American player?
Yeah.
Los Angeles Clippers head coach and general manager Mike Dunleavy, who played in the NBA for 11 seasons, invited McElharney to play on the Clippers Summer League team. McElharney said he performed well. Dunleavy did not see enough to invite him to training camp.
He's a terrific three-point shooter, and you love that threat, that ability. He didn't have great size. He doesn't have great athleticism. It made it hard for him to guard people and get around people. It all comes down to, again, the key point. Who can he guard?
Yeah, we look at athleticism. That's a priority in today's NBA.
Hall of Famer Wayne Embry has spent the last 4 decades in NBA front offices. A 5-time All-Star player in the early 60s, Embry is now an executive with the Toronto Raptors.
How much of a stigma is that for the white American player, that he doesn't have what it takes to defend in today's NBA?
I think that's big. I think that's huge.
Would you say that white American players are sometimes considered suspect defensively?
Well, I would say that that's a stigma that they have to overcome.
A look at the league's all-defensive teams illustrates West's point. 123 players have been selected over the past dozen years. Kirk Heinrich is the only white American.
They went to the zone, a 1-2-2 zone.
Wayne Embry says that one reason the zone defense was implemented by the league in 2001 was to address the perception that many white American players are poor defenders.
That's why we now are allowed to play zone defenses, to help compensate for the player that may be a little deficient with speed, quicknesses, or whatever it is, the ability to guard somebody.
In response to Embry's suggestion that the zone came about to provide more opportunities for white Americans, NBA Executive Vice President of Basketball Operations Stu Jackson told Outside the Lines he never once heard race mentioned in discussions about the zone defense. The objective is to find players with game, regardless of what country they come from or what race.
Do you think that the NBA should have no thought or interest in what the number of white American players is?
Well, we have a lot of white players in the league. They don't happen to be from our country.
Outside the Lines research revealed that during the past 30 seasons, the number of African American players has stayed relatively constant. However, the number of white Americans has steadily dropped, and it was international players who filled the void. Now, there are almost twice as many foreign players as there are white Americans.
I think it tells you about work ethic. I think it tells you about dedication. I think about when you start, who's teaching you.
And why would the international players have more dedication than the American white player?
They identify these kids at a very early age. And what happens is they end up going to schools. They practice basketball in the morning, they practice in the afternoon. In the morning they practice on skills, afternoon they practice team thing.
While the best young international players often turn pro in their mid-teens, their American counterparts face NCAA rules, which restrict how often they can practice and how much time they can spend with coaches.
Are the international players generally more athletic than the white Americans?
I wouldn't say that, no.
So what's their edge over the white American players?
Work. They focus on fundamentals.
What are the white Americans focusing on?
Good question. Good question.
Wearing number 12, Kyle McElharney.
Kyle McElharney's focus remains the same. Now, toiling in the NBA Development League for the Fort Wayne Mad Ants, he is trying to defy demographics, to make it to the NBA, and to keep a vanishing breed from disappearing altogether.
I'm fighting, a pretty big monster right here, and trying to break in and trying to break the mold. I'm trying to pave a way for myself, but not only for myself, for guys like me who are younger than me, who want to identify with someone at that level. There's very few white Americans that you can do that with in today's game.